business. Stage businesses that are advancing the SDGs to catalyze that SDG action. It's particularly exciting for us coming at this time because being 2021, it's 9 short years to 2030. And you may have heard reference being made to the decade of action. We really do need to step up, to accelerate, to take action. 9 years is not a long time, and so for us it's quite exciting to be part of that acceleration process and to be able to partner with government, to be able to partner with other stakeholders, Impact Hub, and with business to do our part in accelerating the SDGs. Within UNDP, you may know that the SDGs are a core part of our work, not just UNDP, but the UN as a whole. But for us, I think particularly so because for the past 20, 21 years since the MDG era, we've been there with MDGs, with SDGs. And so for us, it's really quite exciting to be able to do lots of different things and to do more around that acceleration. And what's also really quite powerful, I think, about this Accelerate program is the fact that, yes, business has been engaged in the SDGs globally, but more still needs to be done. But for Accelerate, it's engaging business within those early stages. So as a business, if you can start to integrate and mainstream the SDGs at those early stages, it means you're growing sustainably. It means you're doing your part from the very beginning. So for us, it's really quite exciting. We want to thank the government ministries who are represented here today because this year we decided to add this session because it became apparent that a lot of, let me not say businesses only, just various sectors of society don't really know what government has to offer in terms of support, in terms of information, in terms of really what happens within government. So we thought it made sense to hear from the horse's mouth, and so that we know where to engage and we know what is on offer. What we have also done this year in wanting to remain relevant and to respond to our changing environment is we've added a session on the AFCFTA. You will know that the African Continental Free Trade Area launched and started operating this year, 2021. And a lot of businesses are really interested in knowing what it's about, how they can engage with it, and how they can tap into the opportunities that are coming out of that. So part of this training for this 2021 cohort will also include the AFCFTA. I will not talk too much. My job is really just to welcome and thank you for joining us, particularly those who are joining online. I think there are more of you out there than there are here. Maybe I can go through the program quickly. The discussion will start with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Mrs. Mtetwa is online and she's ready to talk to us about the government role in AFCFTA. The Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare will also come in and talk about their role in advancing the SDGs. And then the Ministry of Women's Affairs, Community, Small and Medium Enterprise Development will then come in and talk about SME support. After that, we'll open it up to question and answers. Those of you who are online, please do feel free to type in your questions and we will help you to get them addressed. Please take advantage of this opportunity. It's not an opportunity that we often get. And so please, while they are here, let's engage. And then after that, we'll get closing remarks from Impact Hub, and then we will conclude. And I think because we waited so long, I was thrown off track a little bit. I forgot the protocols. I'm so sorry. Let me go back a little bit and acknowledge the presence of Chief Director Mtetwa, who is online on Zoom from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, Director Langton Gorima from the Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare, as well as Mr. Kumrai Chikoya, Business Development Officer from the Ministry of Women's Affairs, Community, Small and Medium Enterprise Development. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. I will also, before I leave, hand over to Ojijo Odiam, who unfortunately, I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce as well. He's the Senior Economic Advisor for UNDP, and he will be moderating the discussion today. Over to you, Ojijo.
Thank you very much, Ethel. Good morning, entrepreneurs. Good morning, bureaucrats. Welcome to this session where we'll have opportunity to dialogue as entrepreneurs, dialogue with government, bureaucrats who are in charge of policy and planning and a host of all other things. They say that for a country or an entity to realize development, you need people, you need resources, you need institutions, and you need ideas. There could be many others like information, but they fall within all those things. Listening to your pitches during the onboarding session, I have no idea, I have no doubt in my mind that you are full of very innovative ideas. It is also clear to me that you are very resourceful people. So today, I think the discussions will focus about with all these vibrant people and very innovative ideas, how do we link this to resources and institutions? And I think that's what Ethel was talking about in terms of the SME support, the FCTA, and what the government is doing. So, as has been alluded to, we'll have 3 panelists, and many congratulations and thanks to the government for honoring this invitation. I would like to give them 5 to 7 minutes each, initially, to tell us what they are doing, but focusing on specific aspects, and especially what the government has for young entrepreneurs in Zimbabwe. What opportunities are there, what the government is doing, and how entrepreneurs in Zimbabwe can then take advantage of those opportunities and grow. As Ethel said, the idea of the Accelerate 2030 is to identify innovative businesses at their formative stages and walk through and support these businesses until such a point that they are able to operate at scale. So without much further ado, allow me to invite the first panelist, who is Chief Director in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, Chief Director, Madam Beatrice Mutetwa, to make her statement focusing on the FCTA and other opportunities that are available for businesses and entrepreneurs in Zimbabwe. Madam Mutetwa, please, you have the floor. You're muted. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you, madam.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay. I think we are facing some challenges, but since you could hear me, I couldn't hear from what the others have spoken. Thank you for inviting us as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. Specifically, we are responsible for negotiations on the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. I'll try to give a background to the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. The Africa Free Trade Area was established after a decision which was taken by the summit, which is the presidents of the Africa Union. The African Union Assembly launched the ACFTA negotiations at the 25th Ordinary Summit of Heads of State and Government on 15 June 2015 in Johannesburg, South Africa. The launch of the negotiations paved the way for the commencement of the first phase of the negotiations, focusing on trade in goods and services, which are negotiated currently. Within the broader framework of the Abuja Treaty, establishing the Africa Economic Community, the ACFTA hopes to achieve a comprehensive and mutual beneficial trade agreement amongst member states of the African Union. The ACFTA is a flagship project of the AU blueprint, that is the Africa We Want agenda under Agenda 2063, which was signed during the Golden Jubilee in May 23. Why did our principles adopt this? Principally to overcome dependency on exportation of primary products, to promote social and economic transformation for economic growth, industrialization, and sustainable development in line with Agenda 2063, as well as boosting intra-Africa trade. The objectives of the ACFTA are to create a freer market for goods and services, building upon the trade agreements within the regional economic communities and associated commitments, and thus pave the way for accelerating deeper integration within the continent. The ACFTA seeks to combine the economies of 55 African states under a Pan-African free trade area comprising 1.3 billion in a market with a combined GDP of US dollar 3.4 million, as well as to resolve the challenges of multiple and overlapping membership, as well as to expedite the regional and continental integration processes. The agreement cover disciplines that will go beyond trade in goods and services to include investment, competition, and intellectual property rights. The agreement has protocols which are annexed to the main text. This is the agreement in goods, agreement in services, and protocols on rules and procedures on the settlement of disputes. In addition, the protocol on goods covers the schedule of tariff concession, annex on rules of origin, customs cooperation and administrative assistance, an annex on trade facilitation, an annex on on non-tariff barriers, an annex on technical barriers to trade, an annex on sanitary and phytosanitary measures, an annex on transit goods, and an annex on remedies and safeguard. Currently, right now, negotiations are taking place this week in Accra, Ghana. There is a hybrid meeting which is taking place for senior officials, where negotiations are taking place with those who are in West Africa as well as those who are participating virtually. Specifically, what the meetings are currently trying to do is to look at outstanding work that is on tariff offers and the rules of origin. The outstanding issues on rules of origin cover regulations on special economic zones, the rules of origins on fisheries, edible oil, sugar, textiles and clothing, and the automotive industry, as well as coming up with a manual on the operating guidelines on how member states are to trade amongst the ACFTA. Then in as far as the tariff concessions, member states have not yet submitted their tariff offers to come up a concluded schedule of concessions. That is a schedule to indicate the tariffs to which member states are supposed to exchange their goods. This is work in progress. And again, on the rules of origin, I think we've got about 86% which has been covered, such that member states are trying to see how best they can come up with some compromise to operationalize the implementation of the trade agreement. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's no trading which is taking place within the ACFTA. There is trade already taking place, building upon what we already have within the regional economic groupings that we are party to. And then in trade in services, some offers have been made in transport, communication, financial, tourism services, and business services. Then there is some outstanding work on coming up with some regulatory framework. Then in the next phase, negotiations have not yet started in investment, competition, intellectual property rights. This is work in progress, as well as work on e-commerce. Although right now, because of the COVID situation which we find ourselves in, most of our activities, as well as the trading, is already taking place using e-commerce. Zimbabwe is working towards submission of her tariff offers in line with the commitments that we have already made. That is, we are supposed to come up with the modalities which we have agreed to. There was 90%, but from the submissions which have been made up at the present moment, you will note that we needed at least to comply with what we have already submitted within the SADC, the COMESA, the regional group in which we are, number 2, as well as within SADC. So there is trading which is taking place, but then to come up with the modalities which we have, we need to build onto what we already have got. There are opportunities for our, traders within the ACFTA, whereby we are looking at the services sector, as well as looking at the bigger Africa trade market with a population of 1.3 billion, whereby we are looking at offering our services. There are opportunities in investment, in education, in the tourism sector, as well as riding on to boosting sort of the infrastructure networks which we are working on. We have got the Western Corridor, which is already operational. We have got a port in Namibia, where we have got some facilities which are being used to. So for our business people, there are opportunities to look beyond what we already have, as well as building onto what we all have, as well as trying as much as possible to disseminate information on the opportunities that we already have got in place. We are working with Zimtrade. There is an implementation matrix which we already have. I hope that by the end of the month, the information would, although it has been uploaded on the website for Zimbabwe, there are opportunities for us to tap into those areas where we already have not penetrated in. That is, we are looking at the West Africa region as well as the North Africa. Although some of the countries in North Africa are already trading within the COMESA, like Egypt and Tunisia, but we would like to expand our export base. Also, as government, a number of steps have been taken in place to ease the doing of business, and this is done in an effort to complement as well as to make it easy for our traders to tap into those markets which we already are not visible, and also to try as much as possible to complement the services sector where Zimbabwe has got a competitive advantage. So within the implementation strategy, which we have developed with the assistance from the Economic Commission for Africa, as well as working with Zimtrade to disseminate as much as possible the information on market opportunities. We want to take advantage of whatever platform we have to disseminate information on the opportunities, mindful again of where we are coming from, as well as to try as much as possible to address the supply side constraints which we currently have been facing, since our industry is not as competitive as it is supposed to be, trying to improve the supply side constraints, as well as to attract the foreign direct investment for those sectors which have got a competitive advantage in other regions, like in the furniture sector, clothing and textiles. Yes, some people might ask, why in clothing and textiles? We are an agro-based economy, and the focus is on value addition, and we want to try as much as possible to penetrate those areas and not rely on the second-hand clothing sector, which is sort of having a negative impact. We have also set up institutions at the Tariff and Competition Commission, which is looking at the trade remedies, that is, as well as instituting safeguard measures, because as we open up, we need to have an opportunity whereby we cushion our industries against the surges in as far as imports are coming from third countries. Then we also have got initiatives under trade facilitation, where we are improving the ease of doing business, what is happening at the border areas, as well as streamlining the processing of documents. Then we have got initiatives again on addressing non-tariff measures, which can be in the form of import licensing, in the form of licenses, or some technical issues which might be raised. There is a mechanism whereby the business community can raise, it's an online platform which they can register whatever complaints that they face or challenges for the exporters or importers when they want to bring in goods, such that the issues that they raise would be addressed real time. So the non-tariff mechanism has been adopted at the continental level. It was a project from the East Africa Community, SADC and COMESA, the EAC, and it has been working very well, whereby we monitor the report aiming to eliminate non-tariff barriers. Then we have got again a system whereby payments, we hope, will be streamlined in as far as those who will be trading amongst the Africa continental free trade area. So at the present moment, you note that there are a lot of initiatives which are being taken by government, building onto what we already are doing within the SADC, the COMESA, and the East Africa arrangement under the tripartite. So in a nutshell, there are opportunities within the ACFTA and also within the other agreements which we are party to. So as government, we expect that, all the stakeholders, who take part in these, in these activities, where there are challenges in as far as trade or the dissemination of information, we are there to assist, as well as working with Zimtrade on how best we can assist our exporters to penetrate the ACFTA market, as well as address the challenges which are there. There are opportunities for everybody, and government facilitates, and if we expect, also the private sector to take an active role, and for the country to fully benefit from the ACFTA and other trade agreements, which we have signed and also are party to. The government expects contributions from the relevant stakeholders, be it government, partners, private sector, research, academia, institutions, parliamentarians, or any other civil society, that they raise issues and they let us know if there is anything that they would like us to take forward. We are available all the time to answer your queries and also to address any other issues that you might have. So in just in summary, what we can say is that negotiations are ongoing on the outstanding issues which which I alluded to, and also the fact that the implementation, yes, but some of the publications are not yet out, in as far as the tariff handbook, the manual on how goods are going to be traded within the ACFTA, as well as the whole tariff schedule of concession within the member states. Feel free to send messages or emails to us, so that at least we can address some of the challenges that you might be facing. So thank you for inviting us to share this platform. Unfortunately, there are some technical hitches, but I hope that you could hear what I was trying to say. You can send in your messages, and then we can respond to some of the issues that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chief Director. It's my hope that you will stay online, so that if after the next two presenters, then there could be a few questions or a few issues of clarification that the people listening to you here would like to see clarification on. But thank you for honoring the invitation and taking us through what the status of events are, both at the continental level and at the national level, and especially what the government of Zimbabwe is doing in terms of promoting trade. You did highlight a few issues which I think are very, very critical, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest and discussions around this. The ease of doing business, the fact that you are now preparing the tariff offers in conformity with what has already been agreed within the SADC, COMESA, and other recs, and the trade remedies. And of course, you also talked about the issues of ongoing negotiations, and I think a lot of the entrepreneurs here would like to see how their issues could be fed into those negotiations, especially with regards to issues of intellectual property, whether we're talking about copyrights, whether we're talking about patents or trademarks, because these are very innovative young entrepreneurs, and they might be having concerns with regards to that. Let me then go to the second panelist, who is the director from, let me just get the name right. Mr. Ngorima, my brother, director from the Ministry of Public Works, Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare. And maybe, Mr. Ngorima, you want to help us to link some of the issues that the Chief Director has talked about with the SDGs and what we are doing at the national level to make sure that we move systematically towards the realization of the SDGs. We are aware of the challenges that we have faced in terms of lack of economic growth over the past 2 years, but the economy is projected to rebound. We have a lot of the challenges that we face, not just in terms of growth, but also other developmental challenges. What are we doing, and how can we link and take this advantage of these opportunities that are emerging to ensure that we move as close as possible to the realization of the SDGs by 2030? Mr. Ngorima, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator and brother. Let me start by thanking the conveners for such an excellent opportunity to keep the dialogue on sustainable development alive within the context of the limitations that COVID-19 has placed on us. And we are quite excited as a ministry that we have this dialogue. Certainly, you would know that the government of Zimbabwe is part and parcel of the global commitment that was made to ensure that there is sustainable development and that we meet the goals that were set at the world stage by 2030. In that regard, what's important to note is that the government of Zimbabwe takes that very seriously, and that's why overall coordination of the Sustainable Development SDGs is located within the Office of the President and the Cabinet, because that is the seat of the executive, and it then becomes easy for overall coordination because they have an overall mandate to supervise the work of all various government ministries and agencies. But most importantly, there is a very, let me say, the role of government therefore becomes four-pronged. One, that government must be seen to be coordinating the implementation of SDGs. And that involves also the very important principle of leaving no one behind, that this is not a government driven, though government is the chief driver, but it cannot do it alone. It has to work with various stakeholders, civil society, businesses, and various groupings and various communities. Then the second pillar is that of policy alignment. Government has to create a conducive environment in terms of policy to ensure that SDGs are attained. But also SDGs financing, because you need resources for the SDGs to be implemented. And then finally, SDGs implementation. So in undertaking these four principal roles, government has developed a coordination structure, like I indicated, domiciling the overall coordination in the Office of the President and Cabinet, but also allocating a particular ministry in terms of the coordination so that it becomes clear who's responsible, because where there are no mandates, it becomes very difficult for accountability. So we have the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare as the overall coordinating ministry, supported by two other ministries, that is the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Agriculture. Of course, you know it has got a very long name, but we know it as the Ministry of Agriculture. And supported with that, you also have other structures, like for instance the steering committee, which is composed of many other players, including the civil society, various business sectors, and every other stakeholder that has an interest in SDGs that come together. And this is where the opportunity has for those that are in the SMEs to be part and parcel of that steering committee and contributing to the implementation of SDGs in Zimbabwe. Then, within every ministry, we have a focal point person who is responsible for the coordination of the SDGs in their particular ministries. And the various SMEs and the business sector should be able to know who their focal person is in their various ministries so that they can be able to channel their issues through that particular person. And we have also said, for us to be able to understand where we are going, because as you heard, we are in the decade of action. We are accelerating the implementation of SDGs because we have only about 9 years. We are developing a monitoring and evaluation tool that requires, and what's important is that that tool was developed through engagement of various stakeholders. So we would need inputs from every particular sector to be able to demonstrate how far we have moved in terms of the targets that we have customized for our country. You know, there are global targets that are set, but we have customized those targets to, in view of our context. So with that monitoring evaluation tool, we should be able to then together monitor, submit the data through the projects and initiatives that we are doing in various sectors. And then we are able to put that together and we monitor how far we are from the targets so that we can be able to maybe accelerate more, because 2030 is not very far from us. Then most importantly, I think the issue of aligning policies. Government has a role to ensure that we align policies, and this involves like I indicated, setting targets through an inclusive process that involves extensive engagement and consultations with everyone so that we all agree on what we intend to achieve as a country. But also, most importantly, is the issue of implementation. Through the various ministries and agencies, there must be national and sub-national programs that are aligned towards the attainment of particular SDGs, so that as ministries and the government implements its various projects, we are quite sure that this project is aligned to a particular SDG, so that we get the necessary data and information to then be able to assess where we are going. And there are quite a number of programs and initiatives that are being done by the various ministries. There are quite a number of, there's a lot of violence from these gadgets. So there are quite a number of initiatives that our entrepreneurs can tap into and also contribute to the attainment of the SDGs. If you are in agriculture, there is this Pumbuza, and you certainly know where you fit in. If you are in energy, how can you also become part and parcel of the clean energy to ensure that we have the necessary clean energy for our country? If you are in various initiatives, SDG number 8 is there. How do you also contribute towards generating employment? We are quite happy that together with the Minister of Women and Affairs, we have an initiative that we are currently having, that of formalization of the informal sector, because most of our SMEs are in the informal sector, and we're saying for us to have sustainable enterprises that they intend to build, let us graduate from the informal build-up towards the formal sector. I want to go to the other sector, the other part of the question, how does business contribute into the implementation of SDGs? Traditionally, we think business is there to provide finance. Yes, because they have access to finance, they can bring in quite a lot of offshore investments through partnerships that can also help us implement the SDGs. But I want us to move up from that narrative that sees profits to a narrative that looks at the responsibility of enterprises towards the wider society. To say, how do we make sure that the businesses and the entrepreneurs are responsible for sustainable development? And I am aware that in every SDG, any entrepreneur can align themselves to a particular SDG that they are implementing and see how they can contribute. But most importantly, they can have that self-interrogation to say, do my business practices hinder the implementation of SDGs? And if you see yourself in some way hindering the implementation of the SDGs, you then have to change the scope and see how you can contribute to achieve the sustainable development goals. And business must be able to integrate SDGs into their work. Your procurement processes, how does that promote the implementation of SDGs? Your general employment, how does that contribute? So there must be that interrogation and be able to integrate. And we are living in a changing environment. The businesses and the entrepreneurs are able to innovate and change. So there must be the agents of that change to change what is there and make sure that the country is on the path to attain SDGs. The reporting framework, the entrepreneurs should be a part and parcel of the results framework that we seek to achieve, because we want to leave no one behind. The small business component that you are undertaking must be integrated into the results framework that we have and see how we can then together achieve this. But also, what is crucial is that it is business and entrepreneurs that are responsible for developing the skills that are necessary for the implementation of the SDGs. Let us see those skills coming up and being able and assisting us to have that pool of human capital that is necessary for the attainment of the SDGs. But also, we are also as a ministry responsible for accounting what government does to the general public by appearing before the parliament portfolio committees that interrogate us, and we say, let us be part and parcel of that accountability. Let us build accountability within ourselves so that together as a nation we're able to account to each other on what course of action that we are doing for the implementation of the SDGs. I submit.
Thank you very much, my brother Ngurima, for that. And indeed, no particular sector can do it alone. Government cannot do it alone. Neither can the private sector do it alone. Neither can the civil society. Neither can the communities, women groups, youth groups. We all need to work together towards the SDGs. With the government providing the policy direction, the private sector plays a critical role in the achievement of the SDGs, not just in terms of financing, but more so in terms of specific activities during this decade of action, identifying specific accelerators and listening to the ideas, business ideas that the participants here have, and I hope we'll have a chance to listen to them. They're really accelerators because they have identified specific niches, moved into those niches, and now are trying to move them to a point where they're going to implement them at scale. That's the whole idea of SDG acceleration. And I also like the idea that we also need to be involved in monitoring and look beyond the traditional monitoring and evaluation and look at how we can get information about results that we don't always factor in a monitoring and evaluation. They're doing a lot of useful things. How do we factor in those achievements into the national reporting and framework for the SDGs? Thank you very much. I want to come to my last panelist, my brother, let me just get the name right. Mr. Kumbirai Chikoya, who is a Business Development Officer in the Ministry of Women Affairs, Community, Small and Medium Enterprises Development. And for you, Mr. Chikoya, I think the question that begs answer is, yes, we have a lot of ideas here. How do we incubate those ideas? How do we move them from the point where they are ideas to the point where they are big businesses? And what opportunities are there in terms of support to Zimbabwean businesses that are willing to grow and that are desirous of growing to a level where they can contribute meaningfully, not just to themselves, the whole society, but to the government? And how does this then help us to address the issues of the SDGs in the long run? Mr. Chikoya, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Odhiambo, and thank you very much to UNDP for inviting my ministry to be part of this exciting discussion. I'm pleased to say that the ministry has had a good relationship with UNDP that has spanned over the years. UNDP, as you're aware, has assisted the ministry in reviewing the recently launched SME policy 2020 to 2024. And we've also been working with UNDP in some of the projects that we are implementing and supporting sustainable livelihoods in the districts of Binga, Nkai, Lupane, and Gokwe South. And coming back to discussion, I would like to thank the previous panelists for just streamlining and elaborating more on how small businesses can add to the prevailing sustainable development goals. As you are aware, as what Mr. Ngorima has elaborated, SMEs have been regarded as a very critical sector in contributing to the sustainable development goals. Critically, goal number 1, goal number 2, goal number 5, and goal number 8. And if I would emphasize on goal number 8, SMEs have been regarded to be critical in contributing to sustainable and inclusive growth, as well as employment and decent work. So there is a lot of work that SME has to play in order to contribute to the sustainable development goals. So to be able to undertake that role, there is a lot of work and support that is needed to help them overcome the challenges that they are facing. And this is where we come in as a ministry to say there are so many challenges that the startups and the existing SMEs are facing. How do we help them to overcome that challenges? As they overcome those challenges, we know they are going to create employment, they are going to promote women empowerment, they are going to contribute to innovation. And as we do so, end of the day, we are contributing to sustainable development goals. So as a ministry, we have been given that mandate to say there has been an increase in the number of SMEs in Zimbabwe. And as we move around our communities, as we move around our towns, our townships, you see a lot of entrepreneurship activities that is taking place. But for them to grow sustainably and contribute to SDGs, there is really need a lot of strategic partnerships. And I'm sure as a ministry, we've been partnering with Ministry of Labor, we've been partnering it with UNDP to come up with a number of programs that provide comprehensive support service to SMEs. So I'm going to share with you some of the programs that we are implementing as a ministry to capacitate SMEs to become formalized, to become productive, to become growth-oriented and export-oriented. In the same manner, they'll be contributing to sustainable development goals. So one of the key programs that we are implementing as a ministry is in promoting entrepreneurship training. As you are aware, it is said that entrepreneurship is inherent in all of us, but it needs to be cultivated, it needs to be nurtured. So as a ministry, we are providing entrepreneurship training through our provincial and district offices. So we are training women and upcoming and existing SMEs. So upon request, the ministry is ready to provide on-demand tailor-made training to groups starting from 15 and 50 per group. So over the years, I'll just give you the statistics. As of 2020, we have provided business management training to 18,574 SMEs, of which 65% are women. This shows that we are taking a lot of work to make sure that women participate in our programs, which is very key, especially when you're looking at sustainable goal number 5 of promoting gender equality. And then one of our key programs, we are also promoting market development and trade. So how do we do that? And the ministry, I think it facilitates participation of women in the SMEs at local, regional, international exhibitions such as ZITF, international expos. And currently we are in the process of mobilizing SMEs who are producing or processing to participate or to exhibit their products at Dubai 2020. We are also mobilizing SMEs to also participate at the ZITF 2020, which was postponed due to COVID-19 restrictions. And then some of the expos that we are facilitating SMEs to participate include the South Africa in Cape Town, Lusaka Agricultural Show, Malawi International Trade Fair, and Cantona Fair in China. So market development is very important. As SMEs start accessing their markets, they become profitable. As they become profitable, they are able to expand their business, employing more people. End of the day, contributing to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Then one of our key programs as well is we facilitate business linkages between SMEs and large enterprises. So we link SMEs to large corporates to supply of various products such as beans, vegetables, air vents, window sills, protecting clothing, uniform, catering service, detergents, and among others. So in terms of the statistics of what we have done in this business linkage program, we have facilitated 1,854 linkages in all provinces between SMEs and SMEs, as well as SMEs and large corporates in the sectors of manufacturing, agriculture, textile, retail, among others, and with women contributing 51%. And then moving on, I think as you ask most entrepreneurs out there, what is one of the biggest challenges that they face in implementing their business, they will tell you access to finance. So as a ministry, we have that mandate to facilitate access to finance for SMEs. So we have got various facilities which I would encourage upcoming startups and existing enterprises to take advantage. This is one of the biggest opportunities. As government, they've realized that SMEs are very crucial for promoting employment in Zimbabwe, promoting women empowerment. So they've actually set aside a number of facilities to help upcoming startups and existing SMEs. So I'll go through some of the facilities that are available right now, which SMEs can take advantage of. The first and first important one is funding that is disbursed through the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Corporation, SMEDCO. In the past, it used to be SEDCO, but it has changed its name. So SMEDCO, it facilitates funding for SMEs that seek to expand and grow their businesses. So they've got a number of products in their portfolio, which include working capital, they've got group funding, they've got capital expenditure. So for those who want to access their products, their head offices are located 170 Chinoi Street, and they've also other branches throughout all provinces in Zimbabwe. So in terms of statistics for what they've done to date, they've disbursed loans amounting to 150,000 to 136 projects as of the first half of this year. So there's a lot of funding that is being distributed through SEDCO. And then another facility that is available for SMEs and women entrepreneurs is through the Zimbabwe Women Microfinance Bank. Originally, this bank was established to facilitate or support women with financial products, but they've extended their service to SMEs. So they've got also similar products as to the ones that are being offered by SMEDCO. They've got individual finance, group finance, and order financing, among other products. So for those, especially women, I would encourage you to visit them. Their head office is at Trust Towers along Samora Machel Avenue. So in terms of what they have disbursed to date, they've disbursed a total of 6,940 loans worth 62,114,000 to SMEs. So much of the funding, which is 79%, has gone to women. So this is trying to encourage women to participate in entrepreneurship, which is in alignment with Sustainable Goal number 5 to enhance gender equality. Then we also have other products that are targeting women and community groups. who do not have access to collateral. So we have got 2 funds under our ministry targeting women and community groups. The first one is the Women Development Fund. So this fund was established as a means of addressing lack of collateral among women and higher interest being charged by banks. So this is disbursed to women at least through 3 groups who can come in to co-guarantee each other. So the maximum loans that are being given to each group is amounted to 300,000 Zimbabwean dollars. So over the past 6 months, we have disbursed 6 million to various groups engaged in various entrepreneurship activities in Zimbabwe. And then coming to the Zimbabwe Community Development Fund, this fund was established as well to support community-initiated projects, especially those engaged in entrepreneurship. So it also comes in to support groups of more than 3 women who come in to co-guarantee each other, so there's no need for collateral. So the maximum loans that are being given to these community groups is 300,000. So as of the first half of this year, we have disbursed 2,840,000 to projects that are in agribusiness, mining, tourism, agriculture. So we are also, with this Community Development Fund, we are also trying to integrate various community projects in entrepreneurship activities. They do so. They are contributing to employment creation. They are contributing to gender equality. End of the day, we are able to achieve the sustainable development goals. And then we have got a project where we try to facilitate access to workspace. As you know, most of the SMEs are operating in their backyards. They are operating in their houses. So as a ministry, we have that mandate. We are working with various local authorities to try to make sure that we avail strategic, safe, and affordable workspace for SMEs. So currently there's a lot of construction, there's a lot of work that is being done to make sure that SMEs have got strategic workplaces where they can work from and contribute to the national development goals. Then going on, it has been noted that there are benefits that accrue when SMEs work together. So we have a program we call cluster development, where we bring SMEs in the same region, in the same sectors to work together. And then it will be easier for us to facilitate funding, access to markets, equipment, and training. So as of now, we have facilitated SMEs in clusters that include the clothing and leather resources, and support that has been provided to these clusters include access to equipment and expertise. In terms of the clusters that we have so far assisted, we have the Arale and Bulawayo leather clusters that are currently exporting their leather shoes in Namibia. So there's a lot of advantages that accrue when SMEs are working together. So we are continuously bringing a lot of SMEs together so that they can attain economies of scale, they can access to markets together as a group. So this is one of the critical programs that we are implementing as a ministry. Then we have one of the key program that we are implementing, value addition support. And this is one of the key programs that we have been implementing together with UNDP under the Inclusive Growth and Sustainable Livelihood projects. So one of the major focus of the Sustainable Development, National Development Strategy is to improve the performance of the manufacturing sector through value addition. So as a ministry, we are offering various incentives to move the SMEs up the value chain. So with the kind of support that we are offering to SMEs to move up the value chain includes we provide loans, asset leasing, processing centers, and training to SMEs engaged in value addition. Some of the more notable value addition projects that we have assisted SMEs include the Machilo Nimopani Vegetable Processing Center in Bridge, which we have established in partnership with the ILO. With the UNDP, we have actually established the Mubumbi and Zinapi vegetable processing centers just to make sure that we move SMEs up the value chain. As they move up the value chain, they're going to be competitive, produce competitive products, and be able to increase their income. As they increase their income, they're going to move out of poverty. And then we are able to achieve the sustainable development goals. And the Zimbabwe Women Microfinance Bank are also supporting SMEs to move up the value chain. So they've supported so far women that are engaged in bakery, peanut butter making, soap making. So all these are meant to support women to move up the value chain, to move out of poverty, and to have access to critical economic resources for them to be independent and contribute to national development goals. Then the ministry, one of the key areas under the National Development Strategy is to promote strategic partnerships where we are all bringing together all relevant parties, the development partners, the private sector, to work together towards national development objectives. So as a ministry, we also work with various partners, including line ministries, as Mr. Ngorima has highlighted. We are working together to promote formalization of SMEs. Some of the partnerships that we're having is partnership with UNDP, and we have also Impact Hub that is coming in to provide digital training for young people who want to undertake online jobs. So as a ministry, we are also working with a number of partners to facilitate entrepreneurship and SME development. And then I would like to address the most important questions. What are the opportunities that are available for SMEs right now? So there are a number of opportunities that are available for startups and existing enterprises. But what is very important, the most important area that we need to address is the aspects of entrepreneurship training. Because entrepreneurship, it sharpens our mindset so that we're able to identify the opportunities wherever we are. So I just want to highlight some of the areas that upcoming and startups can consider venturing into. We have got opportunities in food processing, where SMEs or startups can look into starting businesses, honey processing, and we have got a number of SMEs that are engaged in honey processing, especially in the rural areas where if you go to Hauna, you see a number of SMEs that are into honey processing. SMEs also consider venturing into drinking water filtration, confectionery, fruit juice and tomato puree extraction, soya milk extraction, edible oil extraction, and canning and drying of fruits and vegetables. So those are the opportunities that are available in food processing. SMEs can also consider opportunities in the horticulture sector where they produce vegetables, tomatoes, onions, and cabbages. I think we have got a number of groups and SMEs that we are supporting as a ministry that are engaged in horticulture. SMEs can also consider opportunities in green entrepreneurship. As I think Mr. Ngorima, you're aware that we've been supporting green entrepreneurship together with ILO, and we have had a number of SMEs coming up to venture into production of eco-friendly products, solar-dried products, recycling and upcycling of products. So there's a very huge potential for SMEs to venture into green entrepreneurship. And then also opportunities in ICT and electronics. I think this is what Impact Hub is all about, trying to help young entrepreneurs and women to take advantage of the digital economy. There are a lot of opportunities that have been opened up with the digital economy. So it's another area, especially for the young entrepreneurs to venture into. Then moving on, there are also opportunities in paper processing projects, opportunities in wire processing projects. If you go to CSO, you realize there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are surviving on wire making and metal fabrication. And then there are also opportunities that come with chemical manufacturing. I think the advent of the COVID-19, not only, it also created opportunities for entrepreneurs to produce masks and sanitizers. So there's a huge opportunity for SMEs to venture into chemical manufacturing. The textile industry, it also creates a lot of opportunities for upcoming entrepreneurs. There is manufacturing of uniforms, African attires, masks. There's a very huge potential in that area. Then the aspect of leather and leather processing, manufacturing of bags, handbags, shoes, and then arts and crafts, catering events and managing, recycling and upcycling. So there are a lot of opportunities that are available for SMEs. But in conclusion, I would like to say that for the SMEs to contribute to the sustainable development goals, there's really need for all of us to bring our resources together and make sure that we provide them the necessary or comprehensive business development to ensure that they utilize the potential that they have. I submit. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my brother Chikoya. for that elaboration. Just listening to your presentation, a number of issues struck me, but let me just highlight two. One is the fact that for us to achieve sustainable, inclusive growth, there is need to invest in micro, small, and medium enterprises. Yes. The trickle-down economic model has failed a lot of African countries. Yes. And we need a new economic model that focuses on people at the lowest level. Yes. In terms of socioeconomic well-being. We need to invest in the people. We need to invest in the assets that they have, their ideas and their resources, and use that as a basis of growth. Yes. That's the only way we can spread the benefits. Yes. Of growth across the whole society and not just benefiting a few. The other thing that I think is critically important is the fact that whenever I've been engaged in entrepreneurship development and promotion of entrepreneurship across the continent, yes, you can equip an entrepreneur with information and skills and knowledge, but if you don't take it to the logical conclusion of ensuring that there's a financing mechanism that then helps them to start up and kickstart their activities, then the whole question is, what do I do with all this information and this new knowledge? So the issue of financing becomes very, very critical. And maybe we want to discuss a little bit more on innovative ways of financing. I saw that you have two models where you have those who have collateral can be taken care of, but also those who don't have collateral. And a lot of startups don't have collateral. So they can have social collateral where they actually guarantee each other. Very, very interesting discussions. Colleagues, I want to open the floor now for discussions. I hope that Madam Chief Director is still with us, and then we can have some dialogue around this. The way I propose is that we take 1, 2, 3, 4, and please try to direct your question to a particular panelist, but if you don't, then I'll also try to direct it to one particular panelist to help us discuss it. You can also provide suggestions and ideas, not just questions. So the floor is open, and you have a roving mic. And for those who are joining online, please, I think you have been told how to type in your questions, and you'll also pass those questions on to the panelists. The floor is open. Thank you very much. Who will take the first chance? I'm sure young entrepreneurs. Yes. Oh, yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Tafazo. I represent Upcycle Goromonzi. My question is directed to the Ministry of Women.
Could you also say what you do in 1 minute, 1 second?
Okay. We upcycle rubber tires. We manufacture patio and garden furniture that we sell at our store at Ominsdale, and we also participate in exhibitions and online affiliations such as our website and our Facebook page. Okay. My question is in terms of the SMEs. Our main challenge, we can say is finance for seed capital, but I've also learned that we also need markets. I don't know how we can establish markets for like craft markets for ourselves. I don't know if we can get allocated spaces that we can rent out tables and have a craft market that we can all come together and help showcase our products. Also, in terms of funding, I've understood that you guys are offering these loans, but I also see these as micro loans, which are very low in terms of scaling up these businesses to get to a point where they create that much impact. I don't know how you guys have seen a way of bridging this gap from us being small businesses to later grow into businesses that can offer not the world, but at least the southern region something. I think that's all.
So, two critical issues: physical spaces where people can access you, but also the quantum of resources that's available if you want to operate at scale. Okay. Next is the gentleman at the back.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marvin Chizong. I'm with Niftel Financial Ventures. We've got an insurance entity and also offer investment advisory service to a number of pension funds and institutional investors in Zimbabwe. It's quite a mouthful that I have. My first one is directed to Madam Chief Director. Beyond the facilitation of access to free trade within Africa, what else has the policymakers behind AFTA done with respect to creating routes to access to markets in terms of maybe infrastructure? If you find it, sometimes you'd have identified maybe a market opportunity maybe in West Africa, but it's not easy maybe to transport or to reach out to your markets with your goods or services. Then my second question, what else have they also done with respect to analyzing comparative advantages within those member states? Because sometimes in terms of supply chains, you find that maybe it's cheaper for all these African countries maybe to actually get a certain commodity from maybe from one country within Africa, as opposed to just trying to influence like the free trade or free crossover of goods in various countries. So I think at this stage, I don't want to be too selfish. I can add on further questions later on.
There was one other hand, or shall we take this for now? Any other hand? Do we have questions being typed in by those who are...
Yes, there are two questions online. So Tofara Chokera says, is there an opportunity to export services, e.g. digital marketing and emerging technologies training, coaching, and consultancy to other African countries? And I think this is directed at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And the other question is from Tich Nzingirai. He says, is there a plan to introduce a carbon trading platform in Zimbabwe?
Okay. I think most of the questions, before I come to you, let me go to the Chief Director, if she's still online. Madam, I think there are four, maybe 3 or 4 questions. The first is how to deal with the issue, the whole issue of the infrastructure deficit, which may still bedevils regional integration in Africa. We might talk about regional integration, but if you can't access those markets in the far-flung areas, then how do we overcome that? And I'm sure that within the Agenda 2063, one of the other flagship projects is to overcome this, but I'm sure you're best placed to explain that. Then the other one is comparative advantage in other African countries. How do we identify those and tap into those particular opportunities that those particular markets present? And the last one is about export of services to other countries, like consultancies, insurance, and maybe financial services. So, Madam Chief Director, before I come to my colleague, Mr. Chikoya.
Thank you very much. Yes, there are initiatives. I have alluded to the fact that within the Africa the project, there is the development of corridors within the north and the south, and for us here for Zimbabwe, I had made reference to the facilities which we have got in Namibia on the western coast, instead of relying on the Durban and the South African coast and Mozambique, for us to be able to trade within the western, with the west. So there are initiatives. Yes, there is the infrastructure deficit, but there is a lot of work within the TIDA program, which is there to develop, as well as to develop connectivity issues, which are ongoing. So we need to take advantage of the facilities in Namibia, riding onto what is available at the present moment. In as far as the export of services, yes, there are opportunities. You can go onto the Zimbabwe portal under Zimtrade, or you can come to us so that we can direct you there are opportunities in as far as services are concerned. It's an area where Zimbabwe has got a competitive advantage, which we need to ride on, and also within the negotiations, which we already are doing, the commitments, some of which we have already made, there is an area which we can ride on. Then in as far as the identification of areas where we've got a competitive advantage. Yes, there's information on the portal, but then if there's any need of further, issues which you might need, where to go and what needs to be done, and also the studies on the trade maps which have been identified with the assistance and also working with ITC, International Trade Center, we can guide you. And also, I think another area which we need to work on is, you might see that there is, whatever you're producing is not as much. So we are trying to see how best we can aggregate our produce or whatever product we have so that you can be, any entrepreneur can work with others to be able to fulfill the requirements of what certain specific markets are requiring in as far as production of volume of the goods that might be requested. I think I have answered it. And then the opportunities for carbon trading, yes, there are opportunities which we can explore, and the sky is the limit, I would say. So if any entrepreneur sort of identifies an area, links and guides could be taken. It's something which is quite alive at the present moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chief Director. I think, let me just add my own thoughts with regards to the last issue. I think we're a net carbon sink, because our level of carbon emissions are very low, and we have a lot of resources which sequester carbon. So there's, I think, a large opportunity there, a huge opportunity for carbon trading. And maybe we need, I think the question that was asked is, are there plans to have a platform where we can have carbon trading? But I think it's also a question of capacity, so that, because some of these things must be demonstrated empirically, so that we have the facts and the figures. Because if you look at the forest cover, we are an important carbon sink. We sequester a lot of carbon, and yet we produce very little. So can we trade this in the international market? This is an opportunity, and I think that some of the areas that are going forward, and maybe entrepreneurs here will tell us how can we move and benefit from this carbon trading that is all going on globally. But my friend, you also had two questions that were directed to you. Before I come to Mr. Ngurima for some words of wisdom, overally, since he's coordinating the whole SDG agenda. Yes.
Thank you very much, my brother, for the two valuable questions that he has raised. I want to reiterate and say that for issues concerning workspace, it is very, very important that all those sectors that are experiencing challenges with workspace visit our ministry, so that we are able to discuss more, looking into the challenges that they are facing right now. So I would really encourage my brother to have a discussion outside this panel, so that we can look more into the challenges that they are facing. And then coming to the aspect of finance, I think the funding models that are available are trying to cut into the various segments of SMEs that we have. We have micro enterprises, small enterprises, and medium enterprises. And beyond the facilities that the ministries are offering, as you are aware, there was the financial inclusion strategy. It kind of lobbied financial institutions to also looking into facilitating funding. So beyond the facilities that are available, we have also other financial institutions that are offering loans to SMEs. So if you cannot fit within the purview that I've explained that are under our ministry, you can as well come to us, and then we can actually link you to the other financial institutions that are offering loans to SMEs. So government, it lobbied a number of financial institutions to open up windows for SMEs. So as of now, we have a number of financial institutions that have established SME departments to facilitate funding for SMEs. So there are a number of financial institutions right now that can actually meet the needs if you cannot fit within the preval that I have presented. So you should also consider financial institutions that are offering loans. And we also have a number of venture capitalists that are available in Zimbabwe that can also look into the project needs that your business is experiencing. So beyond what I've presented, financial institutions are also coming in, trying to meet the various needs of SMEs that they have. Yes.
Your doors are open, and the spaces are not just physical, but also increasingly digital.
Yes,
I think if you get that. Mr. Ngorimo, please.
Thank you very much. I was going to request for the floor, given that people are shying away from asking me questions. But anyway, I'm excited by the discussion on the issue of the market. And I think it should be very clear that let's not take markets as something which exists that we need to create them. We need to create them. And what it entails is that there must be deliberate initiatives. We have ZIDA, Zimbabwe Investment Development Authority. They approve investments into Zimbabwe. And the question is, to what extent have we as entrepreneurs informed ZIDA about what we do, so that as they approve, there can be a cooperation clause within the agreement to say, as you come into Zimbabwe and do your business, a certain part of your work must be given to the SMEs. And these are the SMEs that we have in Zimbabwe that do 1, 2, 3 things. I know in some jurisdictions, if you set up a hotel, they'll be able to tell you, your meat, your chickens, you don't import them from outside this particular area. Make sure that the local people that are there can also, within your procurement, provide 1, 2, 3 things. And that's how you create the market. So let's not take it as if that they are there and we need to be facilitated. Let us create them where they do not exist. And that requires engagement, dialogues with the relevant authorities. The issue of the workspaces, I think what I might want to point out is that all the issues that have been raised are contained in the National Development Strategy 1. Let us acquaint ourselves with NDS 1 and be able to face the relevant authorities that are mandated to deal. In any case, our point is that we achieve the SDGs by implementing NDS 1 because there's been that alignment. So you must be able to then challenge the authorities, be it local government, to say, we have it here in NDS 1 that you have plans to create spaces for the SMEs. How can we work together to fulfill that promise that you have in NDS 1? And for me, that is the way we can be able to work together and have a mutually beneficial implementation of the aspirations of the entrepreneurs as well as the implementation of the SDGs. I submit.
Thank you. We'll take probably the last set of questions, but let me start now with our colleagues who are online before I come to those who are here physically. Do we have any questions that you want to read out?
None that haven't been answered online.
None that haven't been answered. So let me start with the lady now. The 2 ladies, then the 2 gentlemen. Then I hope then we can wrap up, because I also see that arrangements for one of the most important SDGs are fast gaining praise, and it's a very important one. Yes, madam.
Thank you very much. I'm Tracy Mafumo. I'm the founder of Any Streets. We are into food manufacturing, and we source our ingredients from local small-scale farmers. And we are currently working with a group of rural women to develop a business for them. So my question is directed to the Minister of SMEs. When you mentioned training, how far do you go in terms of specializing that training or tailor-making it? Are you able to even develop a constitution for a rural-based business? Yes, we actually hope that we'll be able to access the funding that you mentioned, but we want to do everything by the book.
Okay. The next is the lady in front. Yes.
Hello, my name is Simple Sibanda, and I represent a company called Amandla Brands. We're also into food manufacturing, and we mainly deal with fighting malnutrition. So my question is to the two gentlemen to say, you have mentioned a lot of things, which to me, some of them are new. I want to find out, are all these things online? Do you have online platforms where someone can access all this information out there? And also, when it comes to financing, can somebody probably apply online and then see if they're perfect fits, so that we avoid red tape coming to the offices and only come when it's necessary? Thank you.
Okay, and the gentleman here in front.
Hi, my name is Keith. I'm a co-founder of Cheshire Foods. We are mostly into value addition of fruit and vegetables. But my question is, they mentioned more on getting finances as startups. But after getting finances, there's more to that. I'm just saying, as small enterprises, we still need that exposure out there, that marketing aspect, getting into the market, pushing the product into the market. There is an issue of us not getting exposure or getting into maybe Pick and Pay or OK. We don't have much that is needed. How best can they help us?
Okay, for that question, of course, it's directed to these colleagues, but also Impact Hub may want to say a little bit, one or two things with regards to that question. But we have one more question at the back.
My contribution is 3 parts. I know you know what that means. It's just one contribution in 3 parts. Once again, my name is Marvin Chizong. With NIFTO, we can ensure your happiness at this workshop as the insurance guys. Directed to Mr. Ngorima, my first suggestion would be, you highlighted the need to make sure that, for the government to make sure that we've got a conducive operating environment for SMEs. I think just to buttress or maybe to support that point, there is need for the government to make sure that it expedites a number of reforms or structural issues that they are attending to in order to make sure that the environment is really conducive to startups, as well as making sure that there is policy consistency. If you have observed this year alone, we have had a lot of statutory instruments, to the extent that I think there's a time that we're having a statutory instrument every week, which would affect or maybe change, make maybe a lot of startups, if they had a decent board, they would need to hold at least one board meeting every week just to attend or to respond to or to re-strategize in line with the statutory instruments. So there's need maybe for predictability for the startups, as well as even for the potential investors, both local and foreign, because if there's such too much uncertainty or inconsistency and unpredictability, it becomes hard for them to plan for their operations. Then the second suggestion, you highlighted the issue to do with maybe data collection and monitoring and evaluation. I don't know, I'm not trying to imply, but it appears that it's really a rigorous process. Wouldn't it be good to really make sure that maybe you enhance your digital capabilities such that you can do real-time monitoring that will limit maybe or reduce the time lag in terms of data collection, as well as even actioning on the data that would have actually received or collected. Then the last part of my contribution is directed towards the Ministry of Small to Medium Enterprises. SEDCO, number of times, it has really played a key or a pivotal role in helping a lot of SMEs. But my suggestion or maybe kind of question is the vehicle or the whole SEDCO animal really open maybe to outside financing? Because at times it has fallen short of really giving like life-changing finance to a number of entities, as alluded to with one of the participants at this conference, that the money at the end of the day, or the funds that they are availing, the impact or the significance in terms of how they can change the operations is very limited. So wouldn't it be maybe ideal for the entity not just to rely on its own internal resources or from Treasury, but actually to open up maybe to outside private investors? Then at least they can boost their balance sheet.
I think some of those are fair comments, especially with regards to enhancing digital and analytical capability within government. I think they are fair comments. So I take it that before we conclude, do we have any other submissions?
Yes, there's one more question. It says there are opportunities for creating employment online as well. Do you have programs which drive people to be online entrepreneurs? If not, how can I introduce these in the ministry?
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't know who will take that, but I'm sure you'll decide amongst yourself. So I want to give the responses in the following order: Impact Hub, Ministry of SMEs, Mr. Ngorima, and then final words of wisdom and guidance from Madam Chief Director before we wrap up. So Impact Hub.
Okay, thank you. So for us, I think the main thing that we try to do is facilitate that impact and facilitate those opportunities for, you mentioned, you know, you have your product, you now need to get it into Pick and Pay to scale or into bigger organizations, for example. And I think it's really important to spotlight your initiatives, which is why we are trying to host more programming that allows those big organizations to also know about you, right? So it's really important. We think technology is really important to leverage. That's why we're making sure that we engage in digital training. We also know that we can't do it alone. We want to facilitate stronger relationships between the public and the private sector, and to make sure that we are complying as well with what the government is doing. You guys know the legal compliance issues that need to happen for you to be abiding by that, not only to trade internally in Zimbabwe, but even taking advantage of the Africa Free Trade Area as well. So those are the initiatives and the ways that we think would really be powerful to help the small businesses to scale, just really making sure that you have the capacity, and we're trying to do that through programs such as Accelarate 2030, working with government, working with UNDP, and then also making sure that you as individual businesses have the know-how, the capacity, and the resources where to go for what you need in order to be able to comply and access those opportunities. Did I answer your question? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Chikoya.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll start with the questions that came from my sister over there. We just want to thank you for the work that you are doing in supporting women. I just want to inform you that as a ministry, we partner various technical organizations to provide technical training to women. Some of the training involves circle around poultry production, juice making, so it depends with the kind of request that you have. So if you need any technical training, we can also organize depending on the type of training that you need. So maybe you can actually elaborate the kind of training that you require to provide to those women.
Okay, so Street, which was the company that I had, we trained the women, the rural women, to add value to their wild snacks.
Okay.
So they were producing snacks.
Okay.
But we really don't have enough information on how they can run the business as a corporation.
Okay. Yes.
It's registered. Thank you. it's registered as a company, a private limited,
Yes.
but we are aware that if it's a cooperative, we have to work with the Ministry of SME.
Sure.
Yeah, so my very concern is on the constitution that will guide them.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me inform you that we have a cooperative unit that falls under the SME and cooperative department. So you can actually approach our offices either at provincial and district offices, depending on your location. And then we have a business development cooperative officer that will be able to assist you in the development of that constitution or the registration of the cooperative.
Thank you.
Okay. And then I'll come to my sister. She mentioned something about provision of online services for the funding projects that I've elaborated. I just want to inform you that for SMEDCO and the Zimbabwe Women Microfinance Banks, they have got websites that are currently running. You can actually look them on the internet, and you can actually see some of the services and the contact details for more information. And then in terms of the other funds that our ministry are administering, we still are using the physical offices, but I think with your contribution, I think we need to relook into that, realizing the changes that the COVID-19 pandemic has brought to the business operation. So thank you very much. We'll take that into consideration. And then I'll come to my brother. He was talking more about exposure. And I think one of the critical areas that we have seen in facilitating access to markets for SMEs is the issue of product quality and standards. So it's very, very difficult for most SMEs to access other markets because of poor product quality and maybe failure to meet the required standards, both local and internationally. So as a ministry, I think we usually partner with the Standards Association of Zimbabwe to provide training to SMEs who intends to enhance their product competitiveness. And then in terms of exposure in local and international markets, I think I've elaborated that we have various programs to allow SMEs to exhibit at this local and international expo. So it's very, very important that you continuously engage with our ministries so that you understand more about some of the programs or expos that are available for you to expose your products. Over the years, I think we have helped a number of SMEs to access exhibition at ZITF, Harare Agriculture Show, China, Lusaka. So we have a number of programs to facilitate or help SMEs that wants to enhance exposure of their products and services. And then finally, I'll come to my brother. I think you've raised an important point about SMEDCO. But in terms of trying to enhance the level of funding that SMEDCO is providing to SMEs, government is in the process of recapitalizing SMEDCO to make sure that they increase the number of funding to SMEs. And also, I think there are plans that are underway that they are able to mobilize their own resources from outside partners. So it's something that is underway, and hopefully it will come into effect so that SEDCO can actually enhance its impact, especially in terms of supporting SMEs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ngoreni.
Thank you very much. I just want to come in on a very fundamental issue raised by one of the participants there, that we are saying things that they are getting to know for the first time. And for me, that's very important feedback, which speaks a lot about our advocacy. To what extent are we telling our stories on the implementation of SDGs to the people for them to understand that they are part and parcel of that? And that calls for us to interrogate our advocates, and it's an opportunity for us to engage UNDP and see what we can do going forward to bring SDGs closer to the people, create platforms for dialogue, for information exchange. I hope they were not pitching up for more business for the Impact Hub, because this is a space for Impact Hub, and I know they can do more. So I think I value that contribution quite a lot. But I also want to say that we have produced reports that you can access. I understand it's there on our website now. The Zimbabwe SDGs Progress Report that tells you more about what we are doing in various sectors and what we have done. And also the Zimbabwe second voluntary national report, which is a document which we gave to the whole world to showcase what Zimbabwe is doing in terms of the SDGs. They are just documents that can give you insights, what has been done, the Ministry of SMEs, what has been done, are we on track, how far are we going, what are our priorities, and the like. But the message, I'm sure it's been taken home on how do we make sure that our people have more access to information on what is happening. That the issue of conducive environment is very valid. And I'm sure that's why the chief director had pointed out to initiatives on ease of doing business, the reforms that government is doing. But fundamentally, the issue of policy consistency, I value that, because within the context of the social dialogue that we have with employers, business, and government, within the auspices of the tripartite negotiating forum, we have realized that the issue of policy inconsistency is one of the key issues that is related to making the country risk factor very high. People put a premium in doing business with our country because of this issue of policy consistency, and that's why there has been the adoption of the whole of government approach, so that we work together and make sure that all our policies speak together, are aligned to each other, and they work for one particular goal. But of course, in some instances, we must accept that we are living in unprecedented times that have been put by COVID-19 and other global forces, and sometimes there might be need for government within that policy space to initiate certain other things, but we are open to engagement and seeing that we correct each other and we move together. Then the issue of online and digital capability of evaluation, I think is point taken, as each and every ministry now is required to have that online provision of services to its clients, and they are slowly moving towards that. But fundamentally, the issue of digital monitoring, I think it speaks to the issue of, are we availing the necessary tools of trade for our people in the various ministries and other stakeholders? The issue of connectivity and so forth. Those are issues that we need to address, and we certainly value the contributions, and I wish we could do more in terms of engagement and possibly work with UNDP and get a way of getting as much wide as possible feedbacks from our stakeholders, so that we enrich the implementation processes. I submit.
Thank you. Madam Chief Director, over to you for final thoughts, reflections, and guidance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Otijo. We do appreciate the sentiments and comments which have been, which have been brought before in this discussion. As enshrined in our the National Development Strategy 1, which we are implementing and also focusing on leaving nobody behind, as as alluded in the SDGs. We do welcome any ideas and suggestions, and also as one of our stakeholders, we take these engagements very seriously. We have taken note of some of the sentiments which have been raised on policy inconsistency. I'm sure if you could see, the efforts which government is doing at the present moment is to stabilize the macroeconomic environment. Even if you look at the recent monetary policy statement which was given, work is, our effort definitely is to make the environment predictable, to be able to attract necessary FDIs, and also making it easy for us here who operate to have some predictability for planning as well as in the negotiations which we are having, both from the tripartite, from labor, social, as well as within the trade environment. So as in the NDSI, commitments which we have made, and also aligning to the SDGs, we are working practically, and we have taken note of the sentiments which have been trade. The government is working flat out. Then right now, I'm sure everybody is quite aware. We are working towards, aiming rather. We are not yet there in as far as digital marketing or anything to do with the e-commerce, mindful of the constraints which we have in as far as the infrastructure, gaps which are there. But we are working towards that. And also to state that, within the portal which we have on the Zimtrade portal, we have got to all the, what needs to be done, the opportunities which are there to market your services, your goods, and what needs to be done when you want to penetrate a certain market, or you want to go to a trade fair. Zimtrade have got an opportunity to train how to exhibit, to package, as well as to cost your products before you can put them on the platform for marketing. Because mindful, we are operating in a global village, and you need to see how best we can market, to how we present even our products. So I would like to thank, and also feel free to get in touch with ourselves. Government is there to facilitate, and then it's up to entrepreneurs to take advantage of the opportunities and the facilities which would have been negotiated by government to take. We have the focal points. Yes, labor is there, the Minister of Women's Affairs, they've got their constituencies which they are looking at, the SMEs, aiming again to formalizing the whole economy. So I would like to thank you, and we are open to further discussion and any suggestions which you might have as entrepreneurs on how best we can achieve the upper middle income status as per the NDSI. We do everything collectively, and then we'll be able to leave nobody behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chief Director. Thank you very much for those final reflections and thoughts going forward. I also wish to thank the other two panelists for joining us this morning and afternoon. Thank you very much for the presentations, and to all of us for the very robust discussions that we have had. You'll agree with me that if I started to try and summarize what we have discussed, probably it will take another 30, 40 minutes, by which time SDG 2 we'll have gone through the drain. So really, I just want to thank you for coming, those who are here in person and those who are online, for the very robust discussions that we have had. Certainly, the private sector is key, not just to growth, but also to the attainment of the SDG. And there's a need to bring the private sector to the negotiation table, to engage the private sector so that they can play their rightful and meaningful role insofar as growth and sustainable development is concerned. With those few remarks, allow me to hand over back to the Director of Ceremonies for further guidance as we move towards concluding this session. So back to you, Ethel.
Okay, thank you very much, Ojijo. And wow, it's been I'm sure you'll agree with me, it's been a rich, a very rich discussion this morning that we've had. A very good use of time, I would think. And naturally it just comes out. I was about to say, to start thanking everybody, then I remembered I'm not the one who's got that job. So let me stop here, but please know that I am grateful for your participation this morning. Maim Tetwa online, Mr. Ngorima, Mr. Chikoya, we really do appreciate Mr. Ojijo, who's done an amazing job today. Thank you very much. But if I can just say, I was really glad to hear mention of Zimtrade, because one of the other things we've added this year is a session with Zimtrade where they'll talk about export competitiveness and other issues around trade as well, just so that to make sure everybody is on board and really understands when we're talking about the AFCFTA, so you can be equipped to be able to exploit those opportunities that are coming out of that. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Tadzoka, who will give us the closing remarks and vote of thanks.
Okay, all protocols observed. Thank you so much to our esteemed panel. Thank you, Government of Zimbabwe, and thank you, UNDP, for such a rich, insightful discussion. I think for many of us, there are lots of opportunities that we didn't know about or that we weren't aware of, or where to get all the information into one single place. So this has been very useful for the entrepreneurs. And for the entrepreneurs, thank you also, one, for having your businesses and really focusing on social impact and really uplifting the SDGs. One thing that I've really picked up from this panel is it's important that we strengthen the public-private partnerships and we work together as individuals, businesses, government, NGOs, just the whole sector to really push forward the SDGs, to push forward our economy. So I'm really grateful to all of you for just the effort, the engagement, being in the arena with your businesses, starting to work towards scaling them and really making a contribution to our country. We're so grateful to all of you, and we look forward to this being the beginning of these discussions. You know, the previous years of Accelarate 2030, we've had sessions, but we have never had a session like this. So we're really, really grateful to know that there are these opportunities, there are these resources, and we're all ready to engage as private sector, government, and individuals. So thank you again, and let us now go and fill our bellies and continue the discussions offline. But thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Let's take photos. Everyone is set up.
Hi guys, so there are bathrooms out here and in there. If you could just wash your hands and get ready for lunch, thanks.
Okay, sure.